Hey guys, real quick, before we get into it, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the tea. Thanks.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Charles.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a question for you to
Yes.
get this episode started.
Yes.
Can you share with me a memory you have as a child, a core memory of something Canal Street?
Ooh, yeah. So
Our topic's Canal Street, by the way. So go for it. I'm curious.
A
know you have one.
resident born and raised on the West Bank,
Mhm.
one of my core memories of Canal Street was as a kid taking the ferry over Mardi Gras morning to catch the parades.
Didn't know y'all
That
did
was
that.
always, that was always super fun. So like we load up with our backpack of snacks and drinks and then take the ferry over and
Nice.
catch
You watch on
Zulu
Canal Street?
and Rex. Sometimes on Canal Street and then sometimes on St. Charles.
Okay.
Like a couple times we did get like stand seats. So we like went up into the stands to watch Zulu and everything. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
As an adult, when I was still living on the West Bank, also enjoying French Quarter Fest and walking to Canal Street and heading down to the ferry landing to catch the ferry back. So a lot of my Canal Street memories are definitely very much so tied to the ferry landing because that's what I used most frequently as a kid. Growing up and again, even as an adult, when I still lived on the West Bank, that was always a fave and like made life really easy because I didn't have to drive into the city and worry about parking.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that prior to this episode. I feel like West Bankers, particularly like Algiers residents, have a unique relationship with Canal Street because they can quite literally,
it's right there.
Right. My memory is similar, very, but my mom as a kid, she worked downtown. The days as a West Banker, right? The days where the bridges were particularly bad, she would get on the ferry. Yeah. Remember? So there used to be ferries with cars.
Especially on days where like, before the new bridge that's now 40 years old.
Right. It's like,
but when there was only one bridge across the Mississippi River, if there was an accident or traffic was really bad, that was the alternate to get on the ferry to get back to the West Bank.
And I remember thinking it was so cool as a kid. Like,
I used to love it. Oh,
it was just like, oh my God, crossing the river. Like, we're in this car. It's so weird to me. I wish they would bring that back.
Yeah, that is one thing I miss.
Right.
And that was always so fun as a kid. You drive up on and we could
get exactly. It was like a whole
run around the boat while you're crossing.
Cool.
That is definitely, that's a throwback Canal Street memory as well.
So because of these memories, let's talk about Canal Street.
Yeah.
So this is a topic that was kind of our
OG
first
episode was.
And so there's, to kind of gloss over why we talk about Canal Street. So Canal Street is a major thoroughfare in New Orleans.
I would say arguably
I was gonna
next to Bourbon Street, the most famous street in the city.
I had a feeling.
Maybe St. Charles.
I was
wants
to say St. Charles,
a word, but
definitely in the top.
Those are our top three, right? Like,
and it splits the French Quarter from downtown, and in its heyday was the shopping mecca for the region before malls were built, right? And it was a thing you did, right?
Yeah.
Got dressed up and you would go to the department stores on Canal, both local and chain, and it fell into urban decline throughout the 70s and 80s, going into the 90s, and leading up to Katrina. And ever since then has been one effort after another to bring it back to its glory days, if you will. And
I guess make it something that locals use, right? Because I don't want it to seem like there's nothing on Canal Street, right? Like it's still very much so like bustling and full of commerce. It just isn't necessarily full of commerce that locals are utilizing.
And that's the tension, right?
Yeah.
Who is Canal for?
Right.
Right. Tourists, it's always a delicate balance between tourists and locals. Which is why we're covering on the podcast. So we're covering specifically, there's a group called Canal Street Coalition.
Well, Celebrate Canal
Coalition. Very much from the ground up, resident-led, resident spearheaded by primarily some women who are having high hopes of, really coordinating efforts to revitalize after years of talk
Yeah.
to actually walk the walk, right? And so we decided to kind of do an update on this. And before I get away to you, I want to bring to the attention that I have been attending the meetings that happen periodically. And the most recent one was right before Christmas. And it was in that meeting that they really, for the first time, released their vision, if you will,
Yeah.
of what they really want Canal to be. And this is coming after a year of, you know, the organization's forming, you know, reviewing prior studies, surveys, and now they're kind of compiling that, like, what do we want?
So I guess before jumping to the
Yeah.
vision, maybe a little bit of history might add some color
Sure.
and context, right? So Celebrate Canal is a citizen-led coalition,
Citizen,
right?
yep.
Which I think sets it apart from maybe other initiatives that
Very
we've seen,
key.
right? It's not just being driven by the city. It's not just property owners or business owners, right? This is people who live, work, and love
Why does it
New
matter, you
Orleans.
think?
I think it really matters, right? Because to your point, the tension of is Canal Street for tourists, is Canal Street for locals? Having a citizen-led organization really puts that emphasis on this is something that people live here want. We want to be able to utilize Canal Street. You know, just we started the episode with our memories of like what we used to do on Canal Street. You know, there's so many people that have been longtime residents of whether New Orleans proper or the metropolitan area who have really deep, wonderful memories about how they utilized and experienced Canal Street in its heyday. And even, you know, I definitely wasn't around in the heyday of Canal Street. And even I can say that, like,
Yeah.
in my lifetime, how I've seen it change and how the ways that my family utilized and frequented Canal Street really diminished over the years, right? And so I think that voice from the community and that voice from citizens saying, like, yeah, we get it. This is like right here up against the French Quarter. It's in the heart of the city. It is an area that is being frequented by tourists, but like it can't only be for tourists is important, right? Because if citizens say we want to be here, well, then the business owners will listen, right? Because
Correct.
they're motivated by dollars,
Correct,
right?
absolutely.
Who is going to come and frequent my business? And if the people that are in there spending their dollars right now are tourists, that's who they're catering to.
Mhm.
And so to have a citizen-led organization that says, okay, we get it, like that's who you've been catering to because that's who's here. But like if we make these tweaks and changes,
Agreed.
we'll come too.
Absolutely.
Let's support that, support us. So I think that's really important. I would say the other piece that is important about that is, you know, some of what they've used as like a model and some of their like sort of guidance around how to revitalize Canal Street is things that have happened in Raleigh, North Carolina, as well as Times Square in New
They
York.
cite that a lot.
And, you know, in both of those places, a lot of that initiative was driven by the citizens.
Yes.
And citizen-led organizations are what help to like really turn the dime in those situations, right? And so I think that like proven success of when a citizen-led organization or coalition is at the forefront or spearheading this is really, I think, what it is important and what kind of sets Celebrate Canal apart. And also, I think what makes it like really exciting.
So do you so to your point then, do you think because of the fact that it is citizen led and not led by others that this will be the successful?
I think it's still really early
Attempt
to
compared to other
say
prior
like
ones?
this is the one that's going to be successful. I will say this seems to be getting actual movement.
Why?
Because I think it's people who care and have a deeper investment than just aesthetics, than just profit.
That's a good
right?
point. Yep.
That's important, right? And so
They're much more holistic.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I think if you look even just like little things, like you'll probably touch on it, but like their initiative windows on Canal, right? That's something that certainly tourists can enjoy, right? We've got artists that have come and decorated the windows of businesses along Canal Street. But really and truly, like the people who get to enjoy that are people who live here.
mhm.
Let's bring our kids down and do the scavenger hunt.
And
go
it
see all
worked.
the art. And it
Kids
worked.
were
yeah.
going. Lots,
like
actually.
people were
Families.
going and enjoying this. And so that's something that like, that can't be a profit motivator, right?
Sure.
And that can't just be, you know, it's trying to be the most like Instagram worthy thing for tourists, right?
Yeah,
It really
no,
has
that's a
to be
very good point.
rooted in like, we just care about this community. We care about this
Mhm.
corridor, and we want people to like see the value in it and come and use it and come and enjoy it. And I think something like that, that kind of energy, that kind of support
Agreed.
really can only like grow and flourish when it's starting with a foundation of just like, I just live here and I just love my city, you
Yeah,
know? And
sure.
that's really kind of like that core basis of I think what they're about.
That's a good.
They love New Orleans. They're passionate about New Orleans. They understand the history, the importance, the potential of Canal Street, and like that's the motivator.
Correct. I agree. Um, wow, that's a good points. I think one thing I want to add to that is what the celebrate. So the Celebrate Windows Canal thing was kind of their first initiative.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a combination of like, architecture. There's a lot of architecture tours on Canal Street, the history of the buildings. But what it proved was people want to go to Canal Street. I think there's a misconception that people don't want to
To go,
necessarily.
yeah.
They just have to have reasons
Yeah.
to want to go beyond the tourist traps that people perceive Canal to
Yeah,
be.
or
right.
it's a destination for a birthday dinner at a particular restaurant, right?
Sanger
Or
Theater, a show.
right, we're down on Canal Street because we're going to go see a show, right? To make Canal Street the destination, right?
Yeah.
Was
yes.
so
No,
I think
good
critical and
point.
important and such a like shift
I
and a
didn't think
change,
about
right?
that.
Windows on Canal was the destination, and I
Good.
think that was a really important
Yes,
shift
absolutely.
in how Canal Street's being presented to people who live here.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'll get into what was presented at the meeting. In essence, what they are envisioning for Canal Street, and by the way, just in terms of the parameters, they're focusing not on the entire stretch of Canal, so Canal goes into Mid-City to the
Right.
cemeteries. They're focusing on the downtown.
Right.
So Claiborne to the
The
river.
river.
They're bringing it to 4 pieces, kind of segments of blocks. The segments of blocks closest to the river, so amongst Harrah's, Caesars, Canal Place, so that area. Then the second chunk is kind of where the majority of current like tourist t-shirt shops are and kind of late night food eateries. Then you have the third district, which is the theaters.
Mhm.
So like Sanger, the Lowe's, the Palace, that concentration. And then the fourth segment is part of like the biomedical. So going
Right.
towards Claiborne and Tulane, LSU, all in that area. So those are 4 segments. They are, and I think that's a smart way to break it down, right? Because all 4 of those have different ones, more for shopping, one's theater, one's
Distinct and
science,
different purposes and needs.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're envisioning, right? And I think by breaking it down that way, it makes it easier to envision what Canal could be rather than the entire stretch as one big
Right.
blanket. Like this allows you to like digest it a little bit easier.
I was gonna say, it's like the saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time,
Correct.
right?
And so beyond that, the logistics of what they're doing it's a combination of both the aesthetics and infrastructure that you
Mhm.
mentioned, but also making Canal the destination.
Yeah.
Right. So from the infrastructure side, it's enhancing the landscape, right?
Yes.
Making, Canal Street isn't necessarily, despite being an urban corridor, it's not very pedestrian friendly.
Right.
We especially in the summer, there's no shaded trees, there's no benches. It could be a street with
It's not a street that in
cafe
July you're
outdoor-
taking a stroll down.
right? And that's low hanging fruit.
Right.
How can we change the aesthetics to make it more of a promenade?
Right.
Right. A walkable, outdoor cafe seating, all that type of stuff. Which is part of a larger conversation of what we want the quarter to be, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of, not even necessarily the tourist local battle, but what kind of tourists we want, right? Then for me, the more interesting part was the theater part, right? Really capitalizing on, yes, we have the Sanger, but we have all these other empty shells that used to be a thriving mini theater district, right? What Canal Street, Celebrate Canal wants to do is they really want to make it conservative to make it more family friendly, right? So one of the big plans, and this is kind of pie in the sky for them, is a children's like theater. And I'm relaying what they are thinking is to partner with Disney and have like a Princess Tiana, the Princess and the Frog, New Orleans princess. Not gonna lie, like if there was a world, I could see that becoming a thing. Like, yeah, is it pie in the sky? Sure, but I could see
But
how
also, I mean,
that could be successful.
again, when you look at some of the sort of like prototypes that they're referencing, Times Square is kind of that,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
It's touristy, but it's also in the heart of the theater district for New York, right? Like
Right.
Broadway theaters are there. You have like the American Girl store and things, like the M&M world. And so like families come, adults come, tourists come, people who live in the area can come. So it's all of those things in one place.
Correct.
And I think especially when you, again, talk about like making it the destination, it has to be more than just like,
Yep.
I'm coming for the matinee at the Singer, or I'm coming for that one evening
Correct.
at 7 p.m. for the show, what is going to draw me there at 10 o'clock on a Saturday? What is going to, draw me there throughout the week? And so I think that's like a really interesting and exciting approach. When we talk about big name brands and things coming to New Orleans and to our city, Canal Street would be the ideal place to have those sorts of things. And it's those sorts of things that, tourists can use them and appeal to them, but like more importantly, it makes people who live here utilize that space.
So, and then to piggyback on that, so that's the theater part. The middle second cohort of blocks, right, is what they're calling like the shopping. That's where historically the department stores were, Maison Blanche, etc. What they want to do there, that I've garnered from the meetings, is more higher end shopping, right? And again, in the meeting, the pie in the sky was to get an Apple store on Canal Street. I mean, they made it very clear. It went out that meeting from the people who are on like the board, if it's called a board, I'm not sure if it's a board. The two things they absolutely want is an Apple store and the Children's Theater Museum partner with Disney, right? So those are two big ambitions that they absolutely want. For the part closest to the river, they want more like housing.
Yeah.
Right? Condos, apartments, catering to what's already there, Canal Place and kind of the
because all the things we've already discussed are already there, right?
Yes.
Canal Place, the shopping mall, is already there. So there's shopping there. You've got Caesars Entertainment. You've got, the Four Seasons at the foot of the river. So you've got hotels. So like kind of all the other things that we've talked about already sit there.
Yes.
The residential piece is sort of what's missing. So that
exactly,
makes sense.
Precisely. Yeah. And then the part closest to Claiborne is really kind of just working with the growing biomedical, which that part is closer to Teeling Avenue, Charity Hospital, right? So again, it's like multi-uses of what Canal Street could be and how we envision Canal Street. Look, I'm being honest, I'm rooting for them, right? I think it's very important, the emphasis that you put on this is citizen-led. It's not from the mayor or city council or even the governor. Are they partnering with them? Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? And what's interesting is her name is Sandra. She is the leader of this coalition to bring Canal Street back. Is she always kind of phrases this in meetings of, this could be done. It's not actually a lot of money that requires it to be done, at least for like the low-hanging fruit part.
Right. Because
when they start, cleaning up the blighted buildings, enhancing the landscape, this in turn will draw people to invest.
Right.
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 So they're, I think, in my mind, setting the building blocks that have long been missing.
Yeah.
To make it actually finally come to fruition of what Canal could be. And I'm rooting for them.
That's why it is so important to emphasize that it's citizen-led, because to show that the people who live and work and thrive here want to see this change is so important. And I do think that's been a missing piece in previous initiatives. It's exciting to see people excited about change, revitalization, redevelopment on Canal Street. So I have high hopes. I'm really rooting for them.
Healthy skepticism.
Healthy skepticism, as
That's
I
our phrase. Healthy skepticism.
And in this case, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a healthy skepticism.
Okay. Cautious optimism?
Well, I think there's only so much within their direct control, right? So when we talk about some of the other things like River District, right? The group that's developing the River District are the developers, right?
True.
So like there's a different level of control there. I think if they had that within their power, we would have our theater tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, right? Being mindful of there really is only so much that's in their direct purview that they can enact change on. But the things that they can, they are. They have had great support, right, from the businesses on Canal Street, from the Downtown Development District, from Gino Inc. So they've got great support from the organizations and infrastructure that really matters. They've got great support within the community. And so it's really exciting to, see the work that's being done and really see and feel that kind of energy behind revitalization on Canal Street, because I think that is a really important part to sort of the redevelopment of downtown more broadly, right? We have seen, kind of down in South Market District and on the other side of Poydras, more housing, more restaurants, all of those things, right? And it's really become a space where people truly can live and work, and like it's community. It's not just tourism, and Canal Street still kind of remains like that heavily like no one who actually lives in the city is here,
right,
And so
you're
to
totally
really
correct.
see that change and that shift, I think is really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. So we're gonna keep following.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on
it.
it.
I think this year will be the year they start implementing some of the things that they've been. The first year was getting off the ground, but I want to start seeing action now. And again, that's a metric of whether or not they end up being successful at what they're trying to do.
I think they've got a great foundation, and it's probably only up from here. So it'll be really exciting.
I will
to
say
follow.
this, and this is very relevant to our podcast, is in we're end of January. In March starts the legislative session.
Yeah.
That's like candy for people like you and I. We're like, what are the bills?
What are the bills?
I foresee some bills
Where's
being
funding?
proposed
Yeah.
specifically for Canal Street.
Yeah.
Because Sandra, she's written like some op-eds, and she's made it very clear that she knows people in high places, if you catch my drift. So if she can pull off funding in the legislative session, that means there's momentum.
Right. Like there's a plan, there's a vision. Yep. Now there needs to be the dollars.
So we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Rooting for you, right?
I think it's very exciting.
Great topic today. I like that we revisit this one a lot. And for all of our listeners out there, again, follow Pelican Briefs, LA Pelican Briefs on Instagram. Follow our Patreon if you want to get some exclusive content. We send a weekly newsletter with news headlines that we are keeping our eyes on, that those who subscribe get access to. You get access to our episodes earlier, but we're also on all the other social media platforms. So please follow us, like, subscribe, and give us some feedback on topics that you want us to talk about.
And until next time.
Bye,
guys.
See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.